Hey guys, so this is a quiz you took over Unit 3. This is Unit 3, Quiz 1. And I just want to quickly go over it in case you need to retake it. You can have a chance here. So in question 1, probably what I would look at, I always look at rows or really even columns that have the same symbol. So notice that I don't know what you call the little squiggly thing. You have 3 of those, all right? So I know that this, for example, at most could be 4, and it could have been more than 5. And the reason it could have been more than 4, is this number right here. They have to add up to 13, all right? So at this point, you do have to have a little bit of guessing check. So I'm going to start off by just guessing that this is 1. Okay, so if I say that's 1, that would make this a 1, that would make that a 1, that would make this a 1, which would make the star a 10. Now, do I know exactly if this is going to work yet or not? I don't know. All right, so I'm going to test it now with a column that has 2 of the shapes I already guessed. All right, so right now I think that this is what I have. Okay, so I'm going to say that this is 10 and this is 1. So that's going to have to make the pentagon about, let's see, it has to be equal to 25. So that's 21, so that's going to be a 4 here. So now I'm thinking that pentagon is 4. And right after this, I should be able to know, because by the time I guess this, for example, I should know using, for example, the first row, if this is going to work or not. So that's a 10, that's a 10, that's a 1. So yes, this is a 4. Very good. All right, so this is going to be 25, as you can see. So yeah, this one, that's what it is. Oh, I'm looking for rectangle. I haven't looked at rectangle yet. So far is looking good. So now, if this is what I have here, for example, I'm going to go to the ones that have 2 rectangles. All right, I have 2. I have 2 rectangles, and this has to be equal to 12. So this must mean that this 2 have to be combined equal to 10, which means both of these have to be equal to 5. All right, so this rectangle be equal to 5. Let's test that theory. This is going to be a 5 here, a 5 here, and a 10. So it should be 24. So yeah, that works out. So that's the end of that one. All right, let's go to question number 2. This system equation has no solution. That is true because there is no point of intersection. So notice that, actually, I take it back. This is a sneaky one. It almost looks like parallel when I looked at it, but let's see. If I reduce 2 over 12, that's the same thing as 1 over 6. 7 over 36, the slope, well, that doesn't reduce, right? So for something to be parallel, that means that this number and this number have to be the same, and they're not. So they will intersect at some point down the line. You just can't see it because you're zoomed in so close. Wow. It was very tricky. So this is actually false. This will have a solution. So again, if you were to kind of look at what's going on here, eventually you would see this 2 lines intersect at a point that's off the screen, essentially. All right. Question number 3. The equation negative 5x plus 6y is equal to negative 47. So we're looking for the point of intersection. So we have a negative 5x plus 6y is equal to negative 47. And this right here would be 10x plus y is equal to 68. All right, and I'm looking for the value of h. Notice that the value of h will be the x-coordinate of the point of intersection. So if I want to do it all in one step, that's fine. I'm kind of leaning to not doing it all in one step just because it seems easier for me to multiply this by 2, and I'm sure I can figure out the x value later. All right, so this is not going to give me the answer directly, but this seems to be the easier path for me to take. So this is negative 94. This is 10x plus y is equal to 68. So this is going to give me the y value, not the x value that I'm looking for, but I'm hoping that the math by hand might be easier. So let's see, that's 26. So y is equal to 2. All right, so now I'm going to plug in that 2 back into one of these equations. Let's see. I'm going to plug it in here. That doesn't seem too bad. So let's see, 10x Let's see. Oh, this would be a negative 26. Important detail. So it's going to be plus 6 times negative 2. Again, sorry about that. This was a negative 26, which is going to give me an answer that says y is equal to negative 2. Okay, so notice that you have to be real careful, because had I done that, I would have got this answer wrong. So this is going to be 10x minus 12 is equal to 68. So 10x is equal to 80. So x is equal to 8. So right here, you would just write that number. All right, now, on question number 4, right, this is the one that I try to give you guys a hint, but if you don't want to deal with the fractions, what you could do is just multiply this by 2. And on this one, I'm going to multiply, since 8 is a, 4 is a multiple of 8, I can actually multiply this times the biggest number, which is in the denominator, which is that one, right? Okay, so I'm going to multiply by 2, so I'm going to get a 2x plus y is equal to 28, and down here I'm going to have a x minus, that's a 2x, minus a 5y is equal to negative 32. All right, now notice that if I add these, nothing's going to cancel, right? So what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to have to multiply, say, this one by negative 1, and then I'm going to have to add those two linear functions. So this is 60. This cancels. This is 6y. So y is equal to 10. Let's make sure we have the correct sign. It looks like we do. Okay, so this is 6. Oh, 10. And then I'm going to plug in that 10 for x into this equation, the top equation. Or even this one, really. This one will be easier as it is. So I have x plus 1/2, y is 10. This is 14, so I have x plus 5 is equal to 14. So x is equal to 9. All right, so that's a 9 over here. And then now we're going to have to figure out, yeah, that's a y over, and then we have the 10 here. So let's quickly do a check here. And by the way, I'm just checking by plugging in numbers for x and y. Yeah, that should work. All right, let's move on. So this next one, same thing. If you want to get rid of this fraction, you could multiply this. Notice that 3 is a multiple of 15, so I can just multiply this by 15. So it's going to be negative 15x plus 3y is equal to negative 45. This is going to give me, let's see, 5 times 2 is 10. So remember, 5 times 2/3. That's like 5 times 2, which is 10, right? So that's how I'm getting that number. That's a 10x. This is a minus 2y, and this will be a 30. Okay. So now many ways to do this. I'm going to choose to, let's see, I'm going to multiply both. I'm going to multiply this one by 2 and this one by 3, so I can cancel out the y coordinate. So that's going to give me a negative 30x plus 6y is equal to negative 90. And on the bottom, I have a positive, oh, this is interesting, minus 6y is equal to positive 90. Now, notice that here, everything is going to be 0. So I have 0 is equal to 0. Now, if this is true, which it is, right? So if I would have got something like 0 is equal to 10 or something like that, it would have been different. But because I get 0 is equal to 0, the answer is infinite. So make sure, according to the instructions, you're supposed to write the word infinite. Okay. Let's go to question number 6 here. So question number 6 is probably one of the toughest one on here. The first thing you probably want to do is you want to do their substitution or elimination. Before I do anything else, I'm actually going to decide to substitute this y right here. Talk about this y. So I have a 2y. I'm going to solve for y is what I mean. I'm going to divide everything by 2. So that's going to give me a y is equal to negative 2x plus 2. And I'm going to substitute that in right here. Okay, so I'm going to put that in there. So I have x squared, negative x squared, plus, instead of writing plus y, I'm going to have a plus negative 2x plus 2, which I'm just going to write that as negative 2x plus 2. Now, I'm going to go through a lot of steps so you may or may not remember. When you have a quadratic, you want to make it equal to 0. So the first thing I can do is subtract or add 6, excuse me, to both sides, and that's going to give me a plus 8 is equal to 0. That's where I want to start. Also, don't want this negative x squared. I don't want this x squared to be negative. So what you can do to get rid of it is you can factor out negative 1, for example. And then you can just divide that negative 1 on both sides. And then by the time you do that, you end up with this quadratic. All right, and again, the only way to solve a quadratic is to set it equal to 0 and factor. Now, I'm going to think of factors of negative 8, which is this number, add up to the positive 2. Now, because it's a negative 8, I have to have a plus and a minus. So the factors would be 4, positive 4, and negative 2. Now I set each factor equal to 0. So that's going to give me a negative 4, and this is going to give me a positive 2. Okay? So now that I have that, I'm going to plug in each x value. So I'm going to plug in each one of these x values back into either one of these original equations. But see, I'm going to plug it in here because it's already in y equals form, which I really like. So y is equal to negative 2 times 2 plus 2. So this is going to be negative 4 plus 2, which is negative 2. So one of the points that I just found would be 2 comma negative 2. All right. And now the next point I can write this y is equal to negative 2 times negative 4. Again, notice that I'm plugging those numbers in there to figure out the y values. So that's going to give me a positive 8 plus 2, which is 10. All right, so the other point here that I found, which I'm going to have to write on this side over here, is negative 4 comma 10. Now, it does matter where you put it, and this is the reason why they're giving you a hint, or they're not really giving you a hint, but be it as it may, it says that quadrant 2, A and B, which is one of the points, has to be in quadrant 2. Quadrant 2 is what you see here on the top left, or so sort of the quadrant. So quadrant 2 means that this is the number you're putting in there, okay? So that's the number you're putting in there. The x value will be a negative 4, and the negative 4, excuse me, and this will be a 10. And then CD would be, what's the other one? 2, negative 2. So that's how you do that. All right, moving on to number 7. Now, on number 7, oh man, sorry about that. That was the test, the alarm test. Okay, so this is what we're going to do, right? So we're going to come up with 2 equations. One of the equations is talking about concentrations of hydrochloric acid, right? So bottle A has 80%. So we're going to call this, I'm going to actually call it A. So bottle A has 80% and bottle B has 50%, okay? And by the time they're done, the experiment needs to have 1 liter and 70% of hydrochloric acid, which is 0.7, right? Now, on the other side, I have, let's see, solution A plus solution B needs to be equal to 1 liter, and I got that from here, okay? So one way to do this, let's see, I'm looking for solution in A. So, okay, so I'm going to solve for, I'm going to do, let me think what, okay. I'm going to multiply this bottom equation times a negative 0.5. All right, so I have a 0.8A plus 0.5 0.5b. So I'm just rewriting the top, okay? And on the bottom, I have a negative 0.5a minus a 0.5b is equal to a negative 0.5. If I add that together, all right, that's going to cancel, which is what I want. I end up with 3a, or 0.3a, excuse me, is equal to 0.2, excuse me. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 0.3. Now, 0.2 divided by 0.3 is just 2/3. And that's that for that. Right, moving on to question number 8. Now, one way you can get rid of the fraction if you don't want it is to multiply this by 2. So let's go ahead and do that. I don't know if you prefer to do that or not, but let's just go ahead and do it. And I'm just going to rewrite this equation. So, and I may have to move to like my notes or my separate piece of paper to write this out if this becomes kind of a long problem, which at this point I really don't know if it will or not. All right, so let's see, negative 12, okay. So listen, and then the last row, I'm just rewriting. I'm just rewriting the first and the last row, and the middle one, I just changed it by multiplying everything by 2. So let's see, 4y plus 10z is equal to, oh, I'm multiplying accidentally. Getting ahead of myself here. Okay, so now, you can choose to cancel whatever you want. I'm going to start with the y, so I'm going to multiply, say, the top times -1, okay? And I'm going to write it over here, so I have a negative x minus y minus z is equal to positive 6. And I'm going to add the second equation. Now, out of this, I'm going to get a separate equation, okay? So it's going to give me a 3x, the y's cancel. It's going to give me a negative 15z. That's going to give me a negative 6. All right, now, on the other side, now I'm going to have to use, say, that equation right there. And the same equation that I used earlier, I'm just going to multiply this times 3 instead, right? So the top equation times 3. So this is 3x plus 3y plus 3z is equal to negative 18. And I'm going to add that to the third row, or third equation, and hope for the best. And again, the goal here is to cancel the same letter, which in this case is the letter x. I'm going to call this equation A. So this is a negative y here, plus 8z is equal to negative 10. All right, so I'm going to call this equation B. So I'm going to line both of these up. Notice that, oh no, I did a no-no. I just realized I canceled the wrong thing for you. So I have to change one of these. Which one should I change? Let's change. Wait, let's see, object eraser. I'm gonna change that one. So my bad. Rewind. All right, this is live. This is live mistakes. My bad if you wrote this. I'm actually going to multiply this times 4. Again, I kind of went against my own advice here. I need to cancel the same letter, and that's how I know. All right, so I'm going to multiply all of the top times 4. So I have a 4x plus 4y. So now I notice that I'm canceling the y value. Negative 24. Okay, so let's add that together. So now we have an x. That cancels. That's good. We have a 9z. And that's going to be a negative 24 plus 8, so that's a negative 6, wait, 18? No, 16. Yeah. Okay, so now that's what we got. So we're going to call this equation B, and we're going to line them up now. So we have equation A, which is this one. We have equation B, which is this one. Now I'm going to choose to cancel x, and we'll see if it works. Okay, so I want to multiply this times negative 3. So we have a 3x minus 15c. So there's definitely a lot of room for error here. So be careful. This is a negative 3x. That's a negative 27z. This is a positive 48. Okay, so that's going to be a 42. That's going to cancel. That's going to be a negative 42z. All right, so z is going to be equal to negative 1. All right, so a lot of that work was really intense. But once I get that answer, then hopefully everything is going to become easier, right? Now I'm going to plug in that negative 1 right here and then solve for x. So I have x plus 9 times negative 1 is equal to negative 16. So that's going to give me an x minus 9 is equal to negative 16. So if I add 9 to both sides, that should give me a negative 7. So x is negative 7. Okay, and then last but not least, let's go ahead and use that to plug in, say, into this top equation here. So I'm going to use that one right there. So we have a negative 7 plus y, I don't know what y is, plus z, which is negative 1. And that's going to be equal to negative 6. All right. All right, so now that's going to give me a negative 8. Negative 8, yes. It's equal to negative 6. So y is equal to 2. All right, so that's it for that one. All right. Moving on to this one. This one is, I think, a whole lot easier. Of course, you have to kind of solve for this. So, for example, if I solve for y here, okay, y is greater than or equal to negative x squared plus 10. All right. Also, if I solve for y on the top equation, let's see, that would give me 2 over 3x plus 3. Notice that's a dotted line. And this one right here, y is greater than negative 4x plus 3. Okay. Now, the fact that this, I know what that looks like. That's an upside down parabola up 10. So because of that, that one's out. This one's out. So it's between those. Right now, it says that y is greater than that less than or equal to. So does that help me? No, they're all less than. Okay. The next thing is that I have y is greater than 2/3 x plus 3. So greater than, that was still good. Top one is still good. That one's still good. Okay, so they're all good so far. All right, and then I have y is greater than. So I have 2 y is greater than. So that would mean that this one would be the answer, because this is less than below the line. This one's greater than up here. And then find this last line greater than will be up here. So the overlap in shade happens right there, where this would be less than on this line right here. Okay, and this one right here would be, well, is this kind of the same? Am I wrong? Oh, 1 is equal to, okay. Yeah, this one I could have, if I would have noticed it, I could have scratched this one out. The one that has the solid line, this couldn't happen. That solid line is not true. All right, so the very last question here, if you read it, right, I'm going to call macaroni M. It tells you right there that you're going to have more than 30 pieces of pasta. And what's the other type of pasta? Rotel, so I'm going to call that R. So that has to be no more, meaning this has to be less than 30 or equal, okay? It also says that you're going to hold 15 macaroni, so it has to be less than or equal to 15. And R has to be less than or equal to 60, okay? So on this one, notice that it's asking, which is not true. I don't really have to solve for anything. I just have to go in there. Can this one be true? Yeah, if I have 1 macaroni, that works, all right? Because if I plug in a 1 here, and rotels are 0, then that works. All those work, okay? So this one's true. Let's see. The one that's not true is this one, because these two numbers would add up to 31, and it has to be less than 30. All right, so I know I went through this pretty fast. If you have any more questions, please let me know.